Welcome, truth seekers. I want to welcome you to Truth versus Authority, where we believe that truth is the authority. And when we listen to things out here, we have to understand that all authorities is not good authorities, and all truths are not good truth. There's some bad truth. Well, how could it be if it's the truth? But either which way, I want to bid you good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be in the 24 time zones that this show is aired. And I'm Roderick Martin. So we got a great show for you tonight, as we're going to talk about the reptilians and are they here today. But this is a series of things that we're going to be going over with the reptilian agenda and what's happening with it. But this here is probably one of the realest events that ever happened in our country history, before a lot of you were born, before I was born. And it'll take us all the way back to 1933, an actual event in Los Angeles where they discovered a reptilian tunnels. We're talking not just a little ones, bunch of places that was 5,000 years old. But now there is a monument in its place. A monument, by law, we can't dig there. You can't do anything there. So somebody decided to cover up the truth of that after the discovery. But what you will find out through the show tonight, that back then in 1930s and 40s, they didn't have the I would say the constraint of media like we have today, because everything was news. News was big. And so when they found an alien or whatever, they reported flying saucers, unlike what we have today, where everything is censored, such as one of my videos last Friday night, which took us into a whole new realm when it comes down to this content. So let me get ready to get into it, and so that we can kind of go into what we're going to be talking about tonight. First of all, let me find my things here. All right, for those of you who have also supporting a show on our Patreon, I want to first thank you for those who've already doing either the pledge, which is $7, or the all access membership as well. Have a surprise for all of you starting in about 5 or 6 days, the ones that are back there. I have reached out to several people that we're going to be doing multiple interviews and conversations about shapeshifters, reptilians, and politics, and all of that. I got a bunch of experts and people lined up. Now, they are already known that I talked to a few, and there was Roderick. There are certain things that we can say and we can't say. And I was like, and then I had the bright idea, right? So I was like, okay, so we will do some live streams with some of those people. And then probably the second half, when they want to talk about things they cannot say, we're going to go to our uncensored area. And it's not, for now, some of you, if you don't have the access to it when you do, and if you get it later, that's okay. Those conversations will be archived for you to watch anytime that you want or whenever you arrive there, if you so choose. But I appreciate you here and everything else. So we'll have some 2 parts because now we're very cautious because the channel is under probation, just letting you know on things that I can say and can't say. And therefore, I have to kind of really make sure we are going to survive. And therefore, some content is going to be censored on this side of the fence. And I can't just get those notices and strikes and training that I have to go through. But anyway, we can go there uncensored. We can live stream there. We will still be here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But if it's something that we have to say, they have to stay in that area where we can use all the wording we want. Anything we say, we will be there. So for those of you, if you hadn't had an opportunity, and if you want to be part of those, you don't have to. But I will welcome you to go to patreon.com/truth versus authority and get access to the uncensored area. There's going to be still video uploads and things that's going to be there too, content that you're not going to find anywhere else. But in the meantime, for those live streams and conversations, we will be there as well. So I've learned a lesson. They spanked me really good. And also that notices, and that's just not something we can really be dealing with when it comes down to this. Also, Once again, this is the last announcement here. The website is up for the shirts and hats and all those things. We talked about that the other day. If you haven't got your gear, get your gear, or you can. Um, um, all of it is got the protection sigil there for a reason and all those things. And if you're down with that, you cool. If you think about where we're going as truth seekers, we have to be protected. And therefore, all of it is done is what you see and why I wear what I wear. All right, so let's get into this conversation that we're going to be talking about and things that we are dealing with. And so how we can do it is basically start with the conversation. I got some media that I'll show you some pictures a little bit, but it all started. And I will tell you, it all started here. So imagine when those residents in Los Angeles opened up the front page of the LA Times on the morning of January 29, 1934, some of them might have spilled their coffee out of shock in seeing the headlines. It was a strange, exciting, and there was also an error. It read Lizard People's Catacomb City Hunted, legends about lizard people and have been there, but it must have been the first time that it was printed in media. And where this came from was there was a gentleman named G. Warren Shufelt. He was an engineer. And what he was doing, he created this new radio or whatever, this kind of X-ray machine. In fact, I have a picture of him. It's kind of old black and white, but he created this device, and it had the ability to see underground, so to speak. But he had some type of anomaly of device part of that. And when he set this thing off, they ultimately found some tunnels. So I have some notes here. And what he did was it was supposedly they was looking for deposits of gold, in which we know why the Anunnaki came here, right? So, and when he went into using his device, they discovered a tunnel system that was just out of this world. And when they kept looking into it, they did find some stuff. Now his device had some type of pendulum on it. It was a pendulum that kind of shook, and it was kind of weird. So if you decide to Google, you can Google it and see some old black and white pictures of it and how it was set up. But once again, when he was taking those readings, he was really puzzled. Now he was in downtown Los Angeles is where he was. And once again, this particular spot today is listed as a monument. Now, to give you some history of this monument is under this war, this Fort Moore, or I think it was Fort Moore, and supposedly they never had no fight there. So why would they even be having a monument at this place? And so this thing is there as a big concrete military memorial. So I'm going to point that out. And it is sitting there now in the place where they made this discovery. So already that gives you the clue that there is some hidden stuff there. It is a military memorial memorializing some event or something that supposedly took place 5,000 years there ago, which subsequently is 5,000 year old. They discovered, or they thought the age of these tunnels, that it was there. And so they just don't make this stuff up when they try to put these things there in storage. But as you would know, if you look up, they can't dig there. You can't go in there. You can't do anything once they say, okay, this place. Now, most likely that was probably the entranceway or one of the entrances that they found. We're going to go over it, and I got some maps of the place I'll kind of show you. But whatever it was to a point where they felt that they do not want the secret out on this. Now, the guy, when he was really puzzled, Shufelt, when he was taking the readings near downtown Los Angeles, and his instrument showed him what seemed to be a pattern of tunnels, which led what is now the public library, which is heart of LA, all the way to the top of Mount Washington, Southwest Museum North, all the way down to Dodger Stadium. So these tunnels was huge, okay, when they found this system of tunnels and everything else. And eventually they went in there. And this is how they discovered reptilian artifacts, reptilian, all kinds of stuff. Now, we can go all the way back to history right quick. We can go back to India. You can go back to Africa. You can go back to all the countries all around, all at some point had some type of representation of the serpent or reptilian within their history. So when you start thinking about reptilian situations, not situations, but monuments and structures all over the world, they're not just making this stuff up. Now, okay, they could say we're going to worship the deities, we're going to worship everything, and we can go biblical, which we won't do in this particular show, but we have a lot of stuff that we will go into when it comes down to the reptilians. And like I said, we'll go deeper, but we can always start with the biblical side of it itself, in the Adam and Eve story, or, let's make man in our image. And at that point, remember, they said that we were made in their image, but also men had scaly skin. Now, for you scholars and biblical scholars or people who are familiar with it, you can put that in the chat. That is not my expertise. I just know I've seen the scriptures and I've seen where it is, but there it goes. They was already talking of it. So having said that, that kind of lands some credence all the way back to 1934 in LA, where they found this. Now, mind you not, there was a headlines right here that I have on the screen. It says lost city of lizard people is hunted under Los Angeles. Now, at this point, they were hunting this. They was like, we found some stuff there. We need to go there, because there was a Hopi Indian who also confirmed that there was lizard people there. And we'll get into their background in just a minute. But this thing was here that the Indian Leghead and Radio X-ray have started a group of men digging in the heart of Los Angeles for lost underground city lizard people. Now, they already had a shaft down 250 feet the explorers believe will lead to what they call the key room of that catacombs, in which they were stored, which they would figure would be records. Now, they found tablets. Now, he also talked about how they dug into other properties looking for gold, and then ultimately they ran into those caverns, the tunnels, and all of these things. So now the game changed. But when they start figuring this out, that this wasn't just a tunnel system, this was a civilization that lived underground. Now, some people can go back and say, well, Roderick, they could have been some, ancient civilization of men. We can think about or mankind, so to speak. And we can think about the ant people. There are stories that they brought men underground to live when the floods and all these things was happening. But this is not the same. They had a lot of stuff that they was talking about that was there. And they said that this subterranean complex they had discovered was used for emergencies and was designed to accommodate 5,000 people or less. Food supplies and perishable herbs were stored in sufficient quantities, which would enable survivors to live underground until it was safe to come back up. They said it was valuable personal belonging. Utensils were brought into the complex along with historical records and gold treasures. And doing this research, he met again with the Hopi Indian named Chief Little Green Leaf, who told him about the legend of the ancient race of lizard people. Now, the legend said that there 4,000, 5,000 years ago, and it was an enormous meteor shower fell on the western coast, covering up hundreds of miles wide, and they call it the Winslow Crater today in North Arizona, is one of the pieces that fell from the sky at the time. Thousands of people were unalive, their crops wiped out, dwellings destroyed, and the forest set on fire, and the surviving members supposedly. Now, they're giving this story as though it was a human civilization, but when they start digging the height, the size, the remnants, the artifacts, and all of these things, they then began to realize that this was a reptilian place. Now, we can go into modern UFO stories today that the reptilians live underground, that they're still here. We're going to talk about that in future shows with some of the future guests that I have coming. And like I said, we will get into as much as we can on the outer side of our conversations like we're talking now. But once they and it was 3 people that I reached out when they alerted me, Roderick. I would love to tell your audience some stuff, but I can't say it out loud. And I'm like, and then a brilliant idea hit. So we're gonna do those parts will be in our uncensored area. So if you can support that, I love you, and I love all of you that have already done it. And we'll still continue to load up all of those Maxwell different videos and other stuff that you can't find. So that value of that area is going to explode to one of the best places that you'll find uncensored knowledge. So again, if you decide to, there's a description or link in the description to go to that Patreon. Well, once again, they was talking about that there were like 13 such underground facilities in different areas in purpose. One was located in a section of Arizona called Springtown, discovered, and then another was located under a hill which was surrounded by curving ridge mountains. In fact, now that you're starting to hear all of this is why today they're now, telling people to get bunkers and all these things so that you can go underground. And it's just crazy that those are the things that you could do from there. Now, let's continue with some other stuff that I'm going to share with you. All right. So there was also a headline. I'm not getting to that one yet. Let me show this particular one here. Take a look at this diagram. Now, they got the streets on above, but they said that when they mapped out this tunnel, it was a lizard shape, a reptilian shape. You can't make this stuff up. Whoever had the idea to create those tunnels under there said, well, we're going to represent, it's almost like us building the Statue of Liberty, saying that we want people to know that this is whatever it represents, or Mount Rushmore or something. But they built it, and the head of it is at Dodger Stadium. The tail comes all the way back around to the local library. And when they mapped it out, that's how they knew, once again, from the artifacts, that it also had reptilian reminiscences, because it had a shape of that. Now, they decided to obtain a permit to sink a shaft down into the ruins of the subterranean part. Then they located a vacant lot on 5th, I think it's 518 North Hill Street, directly above the largest rooms. And on the 1st or 21st of February of 1933, the county board of supervisors, they approved it. And they told him, hey, go look for it. And it was like, long as you share 50% of the gold, they told him, long as you share 50% of the gold, then we can do this. And so that sounds pretty reminiscent. Now, once again, the all access pass is going to be the $26 pass. So just letting you know, for some of you, unless you want to do the contribution of the $7, I've seen a few of you doing that. So I just want you to know it is going to be the all access area for those live streams. So I just want to, but thank you for, maybe you're just supporting a few of you and the others who's already now getting that access. But so when they decided that they knew that he was going to go for this goal, they gave him a permit. They said, hey, go dig this stuff up. It's a treasure find. We want 50%. So the government, and we hear that today, right? 50% of the government, that seemed to be the plan. And they was like, well, we want you to go ahead and do it, and then make this part of the city of LA, until he got in there. And all of a sudden, they was like, oh, whoa, we can't be doing this. But check this out. Once again, I'm going to put this back up. They mapped this out, and they saw the reptilian. Now, this is blocks and blocks and blocks from Dodger Stadium all the way back down to the library. And we're not talking about a city block. We're talking miles of a system for a civilization to have lived underground. Now, according to historic records, there was also the Great Flood, and it happens that those tunnel systems, or either the exhaust from the atmosphere from the meteor or something, start leaking down into those tunnels, and definitely at some point wiped out. So they found flooded areas, and then they also felt that there was a breakthrough of those tunnels that they did this. But like I said, they found reptilian artifacts. They found tools and utensils and all. Now, they didn't just find stuff that was for people that are 5 and 6 feet tall, and it wasn't giants, but they was 7, 8 feet. They found all these remnants. Now, this is underground. Now, you can imagine what we hear about all these LA fires and all of this stuff and tunnels under these mansions going everywhere. And then, of course, the tunnel systems that, so tunneling and burying has been probably a something that a lot of people have done, but we do know that the reptilians have always, or the thing about it is where they are is underground. So we know this, and we've been knowing this for quite some time in ufology, that this is where they are, and pretty much. Now, as strange as the story gets, and let me add to the strangeness of the story that kind of changes things. Let me read some more of my notes first. When he drilled about 1,000 feet, we're talking Shufelt, the engineer, on the 29th of January 1934, the first stories regarding the legend of the lost of the lizard people made the LA newspaper. Now, by this time, one of the 5 shafts was already 250 feet deep, but there was more than meets the eye when we look into the legend, and the radio surveys. An underground city was laid out in shape of that lizard, which I just showed you the photograph. And let me put it back up as I read this. And so when they discovered, now this is all true story. None of this is made up. This is history. You can Google it. It was in the papers. It was in the LA Times, along with, the Battle of Los Angeles. Los Angeles has been in the maps for a long time. Now, the legends, what they said was, once they looked at it in the body extended northeast, the head being a lookout at the Martin near North Broadway. So the key room to the city was located under 2nd and South Broadway. The legend states that the key room is the directory to the rest of the city that was down there and to historic gold tablets that they found. Now, check this out. These gold tablets were slab of gold, 4 feet long and inches wide. Here's why they covered this stuff up. What I'm about to say next that they found. Here's why we don't hear this stuff today. The tablets were believed to contain the records of the origins of the human race and the history of modern man, in Americas, including details regarding the history of the mysterious Mayan people, and his radio waves mapped out rooms and tunnels as a stuff. So they found gold tablets, which I'm sure they're somewhere. But every time there's remnants of some point origin of mankind, other than the story that we have here, which is Adam and Eve. But even this story in the Bible still represent the serpent. It represented the stories that we're still hearing when it comes down to reptilian involvement in mankind. And again, like I said, if you're scholars, go look it up. There was somewhere, and I forget exactly. I had it written down, but we had scaly skin. And then when we bit the apple, of course, the scales came off, or it was just one of those things. But why would they make that up? Why would they make that up that we had scaly skins if it wasn't a reptile situation? And it's in the Bible. So, okay, can we say just because it's there, Roderick, the Bible, is there truth in it? Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in the Bible. And it's true that two things can be true at the same time, too. Okay. What are y'all thoughts about that? What do you think? Are any of you familiar with the term that we have in our biblical stuff of saying mankind, we were made in the likenesses, and we were scaly skin, or that was the beginning, right? The word was the word. If you can confirm that, put that in the chat and let me know, because we got one of our researchers here in the house. Jen is in the house with us, so she says she's going to look that up, that reference. Cool. All right. So now let me bag up for a minute. So when you start thinking about the fact that reptilians exist, one of the things that I think about, and And when I hear stories as a UFO investigators, the stuff that they're out now, I found some videos in that archive that I tell everyone about, and they was talking about, it was an old podcast from 2012 or whatever, this podcast, and they had people on there, and they was talking about reptilians, and they was talking about the energy, how they feed, and all of this stuff. And I thought, again, that was a real unique conversation that I'll put that into our private area once it's an audio, well, no, it's a video, so you can kind of watch it, but that'll be on next week's. I just have a list of stuff because it can't hold everything that I have over here, but it'll hold a lot. So we can put hundreds of stuff in there over time. But the part of this that caught me was that, and I'm sharing a personal story real quick, that the lady was talking about how they feed off our negative energy, and they found another food source, which was energy. So they evolved over time to take our energy. She starts saying that there was a practice that we can do. And so when any of you watch that, he explains how you can begin to kind of focus your eyes a certain way, and you will start seeing people that have these dark parasite energy zappers that are attached to them while they walk. Now, there's people out there who can actually see your aura, and they can see these things too. And he was talking about cars. You can see them, how they're on top, and they're feeding off the energy, and they figure out a way to do that. Now, it's kind of ironic because I was just studying the CIA, the out-of-body experience, and a lot of you got copies of that when I put that up, and the guides to do it. So I'm in the freedom stage of this right now, and it was something that said about food and food, and I thought I was getting ready to learn about some vegetables and stuff. Well, it starts saying and teaching that you put your hands and you can visualize them. Just give you a quick synopsis of that. The energy, and it will feed you. Now, the lady was talking about people that in the video that I'll put back there, that they look into the sun right before it gets up, and they're able to take their energy of the sun, the solar, and feed and eat less food. But they was teaching that to me in the hemisync, or not the CIA part of it all. I just call it hemisync. But they was teaching me that's your food, and we're energy beings. Now we can go all the way back to the Matrix. We can go all the way back. So it's like, man, this is just some stuff. So why did I bring it up? It's because this is where the reptilians evolved. Now, I can take us back to a moment of a movie called V. A lot of you probably seen this. Now, this particular movie at the time came out, when I was a kid, and that's a long time ago. So, and it was all about visitors coming to Earth, teaching us technology, and they came in peace. But what happened? They were reptilians. They were reptilians, and they had, this was a couple of scenes that came out when they figured out who they were. And do you think by happenstance that Hollywood will make a depiction of a reptilian race coming to Earth, not only giving us technology, and their goal at that time was to hybridize with mankind? And we know Hollywood does these things. They put this stuff in perspective, okay? And so they were showing back then. Now, I thought about it today with a little humor. We know about shape-shiftings, or we hear about them shape-shifters. So obviously, between the time of V, when they were just wearing the mask, they have now their technology is now that they can just hide in plain sight shape-shifting. And it makes sense because they had spaceships when they came back then, and we wasn't in space, okay? But they don't just make this stuff up when it comes down to this. Now, we can talk about celebrities and all. We're going to get into all of that because, reptilian stuff has always been my favorite. And once I start thinking about it, it covers from politics, it covers from celebrities, it covers all the way from mind control, all the way to energy, all of these things. And there's nothing better than us covering all that. So y'all stick around. We're going to be doing this for a lot. I got at least 10 people, experts, testimonials that we will be bringing. And like I said, we will be doing those two parts. So let me continue the story here. Once again, though, the story gets a little different. So here's what I'm about to tell you, and I think it gets pretty good here. All right, so if you want to add to, let me kind of make sure I got the right slide here. Yeah, I'm going to go back here. If you want to kind of add to the weirdness of the story, there was a Miss Eden Robinson, and she was from Pico River, sent a letter to the Journal of American Society for Physical Research on September the 26th, 1934. She claimed that she had a vision of ancient submerged civilization under Los Angeles. Her vision described a culture surpassing excellence with the development of art, architecture superior to anything now existing, and she had a vision of tunnels extending to the seashore, much like Greenleaf claimed. She wasn't alone. She had a moment of clairvoyance, and her friends swore that she had it before any of the lizard people businesses was announced by the local paper. So at this point, this woman had a vision of the tunnels, and she had already sent them information. This is before they found them. So we already know that there's a lot of people who see in things. And so like Reverend Carter, y'all know who that is. You know, he's been on a show. He's a dear friend of mine, and he talked about his experience and seeing a reptilian. We talked about other people, and it's different from Daryl Nichols' story. And I get calls all the time. People have seen it. I was at an event in Houston where a lady were just saying how she saw a reptilian. And David Icke always talked about how they're like puppeteers and that they're working through people. And sure enough, a lady walked up to me and she said, "Hey, can I talk to you? I'm going to tell you I saw this thing." She said it just started kind of shaking, shimmering with light like it was malfunctioning. And there it was, a reptilian type thing behind this human person, as though it was guiding it and all these things. And so we know that when it comes down to it, and as we go all the way back to V, one of their whole agendas that they had in the movie was to crossbreed with the human race. Now, one thing I want you to understand that you so have no fear. David talks about it, and then Credo Mutwa or whatever. I'm gonna play some of his audios in the next couple of shows, and then some of his videos, and there's some other stuff. Again, I'm gonna just keep harping. I'll put that in our private area too, but we'll put some of the stuff on the outside. But even him talked about the Zulus and go all the way back. So the historic of the reptilians. Now, it changes this a lot, because even what David talks about, even what most of the historians talk about, is that their numbers is not the same as ours. We've got billions of people. So they are actually afraid, even though they got advanced technology, they're afraid of the human race in some capacities, okay? But then you have the draconians, you have the more imperial race of reptilians who has no emotions. They can care less. These are the ones that you hear the rituals and all of this. There was another story that I ran across in those archives that the guy said they was out somewhere, and they ran up on a ritual where it was a circle of people, and they was just all sitting there and just doing this ritual. And he said that when they saw that it was a 8-foot reptilian type creature comes out in a robe in the middle of this thing, and they was out in this wilderness. He said they took off, and before they can turn around, it zapped itself right there in front of them and didn't have to speak to them. And it froze them to where they couldn't move, but yet it talked and told them, "You forget about what you see. I'm gonna let you go." Maybe because he caught them in front of a ritual and he had to go back, but he told them, "I'm gonna let you go." And it was like 5 or 6 people. They all went to the car screaming and blah 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 what they've seen. This is not the first time when it comes to this. So as y'all know, my boy Anthony with Canadian Awareness, he comes here a lot. I'm gonna get him on the show. Hopefully I'll reach out to him. Maybe I can get him here Friday. And it's all reptilian talk. And he's a reptilian channeler. And so we're going to do a lot of this, because I think it's time when you see the things that I talked about and where we are today in society, what I consider, the new world, then it's obviously the plan is, and whatever it is, and all of these Illuminati and bloodlines, they all tie back to reptilian bloodline. They all do, all the way back to the families and the monarchs and all of this stuff that they tie back. And we know this, right? But yet we try to forget about it. And if you remember when they did this DNA strain thing at one of the events, they were proving of the DNA, the bloodline, the whatever. And so these things happen in plain sight. But anyway, the lady, Miss Edith, back to her story. She in Pico, California, under September the 26th. The editor fully attested the account of a vision that she had in company of her friends in 1933. So this was a year before they even found this. So they had already got the letter. They had already got the letter from her. So this wasn't coming afterwards. This came a year before they made the discovery. And that in this vision, the vertical would suggest clairvoyance in time, and the attention focused successfully on two periods of bygone and submerged civilization, one which by far more recent and bore the marks of culture surpassing excellence. Now, her second vision, she had two visions, the image as a much older and more deeply buried stratum of civilization life. It was outstanding, particularly was the subterranean one, a vast city presented to her in mammoth tunnels extending to the seashore. And the idea suggested to her mind that those were the tunnels that was constructed for safety in case there was a surprise by bands or whatever. So what do you think about that? What do you think about this woman writing to them a year in advance, or in saying that she had a vision? This is before this guy came out with his equipment, Shufelt, and before he discovered this particular tunnel system that I'm putting back up, and before they then discovered that the tunnel system was a big lizard shape. All right. And we're not talking about no hotel size. We're talking miles and miles that would hold thousands of people subterranean. And they found all these artifacts, and then the city shut it down. And today it is a military monument where, now you can't step on the ground. It's holy ground, hollow ground, or whatever you want to call it. And they put it there because they are now protecting it. And like I said, these are rare things, or something about that when it comes down to, all of this stuff. And so you have to look into this. You have to look and see what's going on. And Lori said, are they connected to? No. I don't know if they're connected to that mansion, but who knows? I doubt it, because they made their own mansions, or tunnels. At this point, his neighbors was connected. But when you think about all of this stuff, you just never know. And I'm not sure if the fires are located within that region where the tunnels are, but it's downtown LA, so probably not, right? And just think about them building an entire city over it. Now, how do we know these tunnels are pretty good? If you ever seen on a video on YouTube, there is a company called Subtropolis. Go look it up. It's a company called Subtropolis, and they are underground, like way underground in tunnel systems that they found or built. I think they found them. And this is where all of the world's archives, or now companies are spending major money to store things there. The funny part about it is Metropolis holds some of the biggest computer systems, Subtropolis or whatever they call it. And the temperature stays 65 or 70 year round. No air conditioning, no heat, no nothing. And it stays that way year round. So you can think about why would, either these advanced civilizations live underground today, because Earth on the top is just so changing. In fact, I was reading in a book that an extraterrestrial was explaining why they don't like to live on top of the Earth, because they live, and some of these entities live for thousands of years. And then in thousands of years, our Earth changes from weather, water, erosion, and what was a mountain here and now is this ocean, and then what was the ocean and now a desert, and they just knew that it's an unstable environment. And we know that now within the weather of now bloods and blizzards in Florida, right? So we can know this. But so if you look up right now Sotropolis or whatever, it exists, and they're underground, and they got trucks there, and there's people go to work there, and this thing is huge. And businesses 24 hours, and people are there. So that's something that you know. Now, why do we want to think about it today when it comes down to what happens in our world? When we think about the frictions in all these other not planets, but cities and countries, when we think that all this is conflict that is designed by mankind, but from my understanding now, it is designed by those people or things or entities that live off the negative flow of energy. And like I said, go back to the movie of The Matrix. What did they say? That the human body, when those AI found that they had all the energy they need, was to form humans, and they will then take it from the young people because it was like a battery. And our bodies is like that. So every time someone tells you to meditate, every time someone tells you to do something, you got to vision light, white light to be exact, because black light, of course, is the representation of the negative energy. I even found a thing where a picture where it had these reptilians sitting there, and they had a husband and wife and a kid, human, sitting there arguing, but the two reptilians was behind each one, just smiling, had their hands up, getting the negativity out of that argument. Like they was like, argue, baby, cause the fight, baby, so they can get the power of all of that energy. So I thought that was pretty insane of the illustration, but it was all that truth to do that. Nubian Music said, my firstborn, oh, let's go with this here. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. She said, my firstborn had web feet, green eyes. His green eyes would wobble often. I never knew why. Well, I mean, what is your blood type? Now, I would love to know that if you put that on the screen. That will be, we'll start there to be again. But web feet and green eyes that would wobble. Yeah, let's go back to your family history or something, but if you don't mind, stick that in there and just kind of see what that would be. All right. So again, when you start thinking about this, and for those who just hopped in, there was the residents of Los Angeles woke up in 1934. You can Google it right now. And there was headlines, the lizard people of Los Angeles. And so everybody was talking about it. Hey, we found these lizard people. And like I said, it goes all the way back to the Hopi Indians, all the way back. I'm just doing a quick recap, all the way back to civilizations that's been around quite some time. So we do know that this is one of those things that we can look at. Dr. Strange said, I would love to see a reptilian humanoid. Well, I think now that their technology has advanced, yeah, you're going to get the shapeshifters, but yes, a reptilian will be. In fact, when you start thinking about the royal families and the backgrounds of those that we would do in our next couple of shows, it's remnants of the fact that they're saying that's how they fight for whoever got the purest bloodline that goes all the way back. Now, the reptilian stuff goes all the way back to Africa. So Credo Mutwa, like I said, he talks about that. He's no longer with us, but he has depictions of symbolism, and then he talks about those things. And so my goal is to travel to a couple of these locations and show the serpent and reptilian. Now, I did a video, if you haven't seen it, about Vatican Snake Hall, the reptilian. If you haven't looked at it, go back and find that video. You will see that Snake Hall, the Vatican, on the outside has eyes of the snake. This whole thing is made like a head. And even when they're standing there preaching to people, they're sitting in the fangs of the mouth of the serpent of the reptilian god that they're representing. And so you can't make this stuff up in real life, that the fact of why we would do that. Now, okay, in some cases, the serpent is evil. And then on the other hand, it represents knowledge and all of these things. When you got the symbol of the Umbriels, which is the snake eating its tail, which is the infinity symbol, or in that continuation or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff that they do that, and so it's things that you want to pay attention to, and pretty much go look at those things as well. And so check it out. Why do I think personally that they do exist? Absolutely, they exist. I don't. People ask me one day, "Do you believe it?" And I said, "No, I don't believe it. I just know it does now. It's just too many. We got to believe the history of what we're believing." But at this point, now in that audio that I was listening to, a podcast, a video podcast way back then, the lady was talking about how their agenda was the religious agenda, or all these things that they was using to guide us or misguide us to all these things. And now you got to begin. And I don't know where y'all agree with me, but we're now to a point as truth seekers, we have to agree to the fact that it is more than meets the eye now, right? It's more than what we could imagine when it comes down to these stories, the belief systems, and all of this stuff. Because coincidence, I've always said coincidence is God's way of being anonymous, right? There is no coincidence, okay? And when you start thinking about the historic side of things, and think about, there's more than one extraterrestrial species. There are just more. They're not just the Palladians or the felines and all of this. So there's a lot, but just so happens Earth supposedly the project planet, and that there's a lot of off limits galactically from whoever controls this, and supposedly there are other things here. So when we start thinking about the Matrix and everything else, and so like I said, I'll try to find and see if I can get my guy Anthony. If I do, you'll see the thumbnail if he can come this Friday or maybe next time. But I do have so far 7 specialists on the reptilians for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and they're all going to be coming live on the show. We're going to hear some stories. You're going to hear some things that's going to rattle your sense of being when it comes down to this subject matter. And then, of course, we can get into shape-shifting. We can get into our politics of shape-shifting, because there have been a lot of videos out there where you've seen shapeshifters in real time, that reptilian type shapeshifters that was like they was, CIA, or not CIA, but Secret Service, watching the presidents and stuff. So there's just been a lot of stuff that was there, and you can kind of do that. So let me look into the chat real quick. Judah said the Buddhists hold snakes in high regard. Yeah, and they call them Naga. Is that okay? Yeah. So you want to go back to all of these, and the question for you to ask yourself is, how is it at that time, without travel the way we think, without airplanes wasn't invented then, without stagecoach wasn't invented then, cars wasn't invented then, okay, horses was around, but all these civilization at that time was divided by water. And I'm not saying that ships and stuff didn't prevail, but they all seem to have been, their origins go all the way back to, at some point, the serpents, the reptilian side of things, if though that they all had some kind of history. Now, we can imagine that there's been so many different species of us, because our DNA has been tampered with 64 times, I think they said. So we have evolved. And man was already here when the Anunnaki arrived, because Enlil and Enki and their father and was like, we need to create a race to mine the gold. And the sister said, hey, what y'all seek is already here. So there was already some Neanderthal type man walking the earth bipedal anyway. So it wasn't like that something didn't exist long before. And who knows how that went and everything else. So those stories can go all over the place. And when you think it's a big, giant planet, there's an opportunity that there are so many different stories that we have when to do that. What do you do with the shed skin, or what do they do? Some people make boots and stuff. So if you're talking about snake skin, we all are hybrids of some kind. Yeah. All right. So Laura says that Philly Cat said my utility bill say, oh, something. Okay. Y'all having a conversation there. All right. So, and agreed, let's not be species, or Sammy, I don't understand that one. So if you want to retype it, he says flush it. Okay. I'm not really for sure what you're saying, Sammy, but if it's something you can give more detail. All right, but what do y'all think about it? Have any of you had any experience that you have seen, heard some type of stories? Because we're going to get into abductions, and do the reptilians abduct people? The rituals that you hear. Remember, I had the guy on our channel that he was talking about Michael Jackson. He was talking about the Shalites, the son, Darren. You know, he was here, and he talked about the ritual and how they were all kind of like a reptilian type, because they was eating those RATS, right? And so he was saying, oh, okay, against other species. Gotcha. So he was saying that, you know, that was a ritual that he watched the Jacksons and all that do, his father with the Chilites and his aunt, while they were serving these things. And all of that goes back to V, when V came out, that's what they wanted. Now, the shift between humans and everything else changed over time, but again, it can go back into how things were done from there. So, have anyone in had any type of experience with that? Okay, Hans said the story sounds like Africa still happening. It seems mine to go because others don't want to do the hard labor or displace their citizens. I'm not really for sure on that part, but the other part of this, it all goes back to in where we're talking about the ancient civilizations. And I'm sure all of you, if you look into it, you can find the fact that the remnants of the serpent goes all the way back to what we're doing from there. Well, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you tonight. If you find value into the story tonight, you could, support the show. If that's what you want to do, you could easily do that through, put that at the top of the screen right there. There's our Cash App if you want to find any value in the show tonight. We're a community reported show. And definitely now that 3 of my videos are demonetized, even though they still going commercials, but I don't, and then getting that thing the other day. So obviously I'm on the radar, finally, but I do have to be a little cautious and do that. And so if you want to do it, the Cash App up there is why the big secret. Also, like I said before, if you have not, you want to support us in the Patreon, you can do that and put that on the screen. This is where, starting in about a week or so, when I bring all of these people, and 3 of them said there was things that they could not tell us, could not say on the air, on YouTube to be exactly, but they're willing to kind of do it in an uncensored area. So we will eventually at some time have 2 live streams. We will live stream here, and then I will get off and say, hey, in 15 minutes, we're going to go over into the uncensored area so they can tell us what they want to say, what they can't say. And I'll either have all that pre-done or talk to and know as we're going, because I don't want us to stop accessing the information. I just want us to do that. And that will be the all access part to do that. And I don't expect everybody to do it, so don't worry about it if you don't. I know there are some who will support if they can or want to or would like to, whenever the time is right for anyone. And like I said, if it's not right today, don't worry, because those conversations are going to be archives. And when you do decide you want to go in there and binge and catch up on all that stuff anyway. So it is for us to do it. But in the meantime, I think it will be, because I was a little deterred Friday when they took the videos down and gave me the warnings and had made me take the class and all this stuff and said, hey, spanky, don't do it. You have not got a copy of The Shadows of Deception. That's the website, shadowdeceptions.com ebook. So make sure you go do that. But anyway, this is it. We're done tonight, an hour. Friday we'll be here a little longer though. So come Friday for a couple of hours. And I'm going to reach out to my guy when we hang up and see the Reptilian Chandler could be here with us Friday. If not, I have some more stuff that we'll talk about with this Reptilian. So y'all stay with us. Make sure if you haven't subscribed to the channel, share the channel, and also show the love if there's any love we can do. And you can do that by getting your shirts or your hats or whatever. That's a new style I just got up, just kind of practicing that color for a little more casual take. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I want to thank y'all for being here, and I will end this with our shirt promotion.
peace and harmony. I think we're being set up for something very serious and very big by some very powerful secret societies that very well could have extraterrestrial or otherworld intelligence guiding it. I am very fearful for the world we live in because we bought it hook, line, and sinker, and all over the world we have accepted the authority as truth rather than truth as the authority. It is going to require intellect, knowledge, study, and making a stand for the first time not to accept the things which your government gives you, which your religions give you, and which the authorities give you. Because as far as I'm concerned, I have a very big problem with anyone called an authority, because they're always...